All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simply Cyber Live, the 1 hour weekly live cybersecurity interview podcast, bringing you industry experts, and discussing the intersection of business innovation and cybersecurity. I'm your host, Dr. Gerald Dozier, and today we have a special episode that promises to be both enlightening and actionable for you as a practitioner and for businesses of all sizes, small, medium, large, global enterprise, mom and pop, we got you covered. All right. I'd like to thank Intel for supporting the channel and sponsoring this live stream this afternoon. We got a great show for you, Team Live. Okay. Joining us today is Garry Binder, this guy right here. All this is Garry. He's a subject matter expert from Intel, here to shed light on the Intel vPro and its pivotal role in today's digital landscape. Now, if you recall, we discussed with Intel, the Intel vPro and its security hardening features back on a Simply Cyber live stream in July. And I'd encourage you to go check it out if you didn't see it when we did it back in July. It was fantastic. We were only able to scratch the surface of the platform's capabilities, though, at that time. The platform addresses more in the cybersecurity space, including my favorite, business continuity and maintenance security objectives, which is exactly what Garry Binder is bringing with us today, okay? A little bit about Garry, just a little bit. The man is eclectic, and he's got many tastes and interests. So we're just going to give you a little amuse-bouche, if you will, about Garry. He is the chief commercial architect within Intel's client computing group. He's responsible for overseeing client manageability, leveraging insights, and control for the client commercial segment. He possesses a wealth of industry expertise, which you're about to, get just dumped on you in oodles in a second, including industry certifications, including CISSP and CISA, and he holds a Master's of Science degree in cybersecurity from Johns Hopkins University. Garry believes that the risk of failure should never deter the pursuit of victory. And that resonates with me. I love that. Feel free to drop any questions you have during the chat, and we will pull them up live during the show and ask them, right? Put Garry on the spot. Why not? Let's go for it. It's all about knowledge share. It's all about inclusion. That's what we're doing here in Simply Cyber. And Garry has a bundle to share with us today. So do me a favor, go grab a drink, maybe a notepad and a pencil or pen if you're into that, or digital tablet, whatever. Whatever's going to work best for you. Go get something to drink, sit back, relax, and let's get into discussion with Garry. I can't wait. What's up, Garry? How are you, man?
I'm doing really well. How
Awesome.
are you?
Yeah, let me get this scrolling ticker across the bottom out of the way. Let's give you the proper respect of a name. You get the full lower third, Garry. It's great. Now, we have an amazing amount of Intel vPro platform to discuss today, so we are going to get to it. So don't sweat that. But before we get into it, I was reading Garry's bio before the show, and something really resonated with me, which I hinted at in my intro there. You said in your bio, Garry, that you believe that the risk of failure should never deter the pursuit of victory. And I absolutely love this. And I know this actually resonates with many of the Simply Cyber community over here. Can you share like why you believe this? What motivates you to take this particular philosophical perspective?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. A number of people, and my dad included, growing up was just like, hey, there's two ways to fail, right? One way is you go try something and it doesn't work out. The other way is you don't try it. And boy, that second one really hurts, right? And so, this is, you really got to get out there, try stuff, and this is all the way from technology to, things in your personal life, your hobbies, this is like I've been kind of dabbling as I get a little bit older, dabbling and trying to write a little science fiction. And I have an audience of one, my son, and so far he's tolerating me, which is fantastic. You're going to try stuff, right? And you never know what you're going to be good at, and until you give it a shot. So
yeah, absolutely. I feel like COVID was like the perfect time too for people to try
absolutely.
things, right? People are kind of bored, like, oh, I got an itch, let's scratch it. Oh,
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely.
Garry. So let's turn our attention to Intel vPro, right? So this might stun you, chat, but according cyber attacks are occurring every 39 seconds, according to research out of University of Maryland. You can go look it up. It's academic backed research every 39 seconds. So certainly a hot time to get a job in the industry. And cyber resiliency and the ability to maintain business operations, Garry, is absolutely paramount. So we are seeing that business continuity is really on every business leader's mind right now, especially post-pandemic. How does the Intel vPro directly address these particular concerns?
Yeah, great question. And I love the statistic. It's a quantitative representation, and you can debate it all day long, and it really doesn't matter. The other half of the statistic that I think, and I've heard this a number of different places and experienced it myself, is that the quality of the attacks is actually increasing over time. And the reason for this, one of the many reasons for this is the number of people who are out there, launching these attacks, but also the tools that they have at their disposal, right? And this is something that's gone. And I was just looking, computers are really good at a lot of things these days, right? Computers are really good at, processing images, and they're good at, they're good at doing more all the time doing medical diagnosis, and they're good at, now we're like, they can actually pass the bar, and they can do, take tests and, do translations, maybe even close to real time. You saw something recently last week, and so what's happening is that these every 39 seconds you've got this attack, but the quality of these attacks is just really increasing exponentially. And so what you're going to see is they're going to leverage, a lot of the tools more and more that they have at their disposal to make that attack so much more effective. And so now to your question,
Yeah.
So what we as the good guys, right, is it's our, what we do is we go out and we pull from a large bag of tricks that we have and techniques, and they range all the way from, I'm going to reduce the attack surface. That's a great one. It's just like there's less for you to go after. And so that's one of the things that we focus on here at here at Intel and our commercial platforms and vPro platforms is how do we reduce that attack surface? Well, that's one of the things we do. We're trying to build a great foundation, and a secure foundation for people to build on. Another thing, we actually have, things are going to come into the platform through social engineering, through phishing, whatever it happens to be, a variety of very creative attacks that people have. How can we actually contain the blast radius, right? And we assume, hey, it's going to happen from time to time, and it happens to the best of everybody out there. It's just, you open something and you're like, I was tired. I woke up and I opened something I shouldn't have. Well, okay, how do we contain that so that it is limited to the smallest particular compromise or area that is possible? And so that's one of the things. And then your area, right, is as we get into is okay, I've limited it, but there's still damage. How do we recover from that, right? We want to maintain the experience. I don't want to have to, we're all working, a lot of us are working remotely these days, from COVID and much more mobile than we used to be. I don't want to have to pick up my computer and send it back and wait 3 days to get it returned with a new image on it. So these are the kinds of things that is like progression of technologies that we have to kind of address these types of attacks.
Yeah, it's a great point too with being able, and I know we're going to get into more of the remote functionality, but you brought up a good point about um, just the inconvenience and the time loss of sending a laptop back. I want to point out to people because if you don't work in industry, you may have not known this, but even like maybe 18 months ago, there was like lead times in the months of getting new hardware. So like if you were trying to do tech refresh for your business, if you were trying to like send a new laptop out to the field so other ones could come in to get service, like you couldn't get those laptops. Like you just like you were on a waiting list. It was crazy with all the, well, I guess semiconductor. That seems very germane to bring that up. I didn't even make that connection.
Well, I mean, you make a great point. Is most people don't realize that it takes almost 6 months to go from the beginning of the manufacturing line to the pull it off and put it in a box and get it to somebody so they can start using it, right? So yeah, it's a big process.
Yeah. So to piggyback on that, since that probably resonated with our business listeners, for the business listeners and greater chat, but really the business listeners' ears should perk up right now. Garry, can you explain how the manageability features of Intel's vPro can translate into actual tangible business benefits? And I'd even argue like the business listeners might be interested, but the people who need the business to give them money budget are probably quite intrigued as well. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. There's a few, there's a few technologies that are, you in fact, quite a few technologies that are aware. And in the previous conversations that you've had, you said you kind of scratched the surface on some of the security things. So we'll talk more specifically about some of the things that our manageability features can provide. One of those is the ability to remote into a platform. And what's kind of neat about it is that platform doesn't actually need to be booted up in order to do that, right? So we've got this really tiny little embedded controller processor that sits on off to the side and continues to run as long as you have power supply to the box, even if you have it shut down, right? So I go in and click shut down, the whole thing shuts down. But this little processor, if configured correctly, completely under your control, configured correctly, is still reaching out and waiting for some instructions. And so what can happen is a user can come in, an IT administrator can come in and say, hey, bring up the platform, boot it, and I want to get on there and watch it boot. And so they can actually do that, and they'll see, oh, it's going through post, right? Doing all the testing, it's checking memory, it's doing BIOS, and everything's working fine. Or, oh wait, it can't actually boot. Let me go into BIOS and make some changes. Let me watch the operating system come up. Oh, look, the operating system's not coming up properly. I can hit, what is it, F8 these days?
Yeah, I don't know. I smash F8, delete R.
Yeah,
I smash a lot of different things,
F2.
hoping.
Yeah, yeah. And you can go send those signals over and do some real-time recoveries or repairs on the operating system. And then, operating system comes up. Hey, some apps are missing. Oh, I can mount up a virtual USB drive from my desk and put some software over on the platform, maybe software that's been removed or corrupted in some way. So those are the basic, kind of technologies and there's some others, but those are kind of the cool ones that most people are interested in.
Yeah, well, so I had this queued up for later, but you kind of just teased it right now. So let me bring it on screen. Chat will still be able to hear us, Garry. So I'll tee it up, but if you want to talk about it really quickly. So this is come on now. This is a video, and this is inside of the endpoint management of a system with Intel vPro platform installed. And what's about to happen here is the IT administrator is actually logged in remote desktop, and not remote desktop, but like remoted into the box, and is going to issue a reboot in a second. And you're going to see what Garry's talking about. But Garry, if you want to comment at all about what we're about to see, please do so.
Yeah, this is exactly the scenario that I was just mentioning. Right? It's just like we call it out of band, and so it's just a term that we use to refer to the fact that we've got a connection over to the system, and we don't actually need the operating system running in order to maintain that connectivity. And and this is one of those things that's really valuable to the IT organization, where they're able to go in and remotely fix things. Hey, you can see it here. This is like, hey, um, this is a operating system's clearly not running at this point, but we're still able to go see what's going on in the box. And so just having those eyeballs and those hands, to be able to work on the problem, very valuable for
Yeah,
the
and not
operator.
not asking the end user, hey, what are you seeing here? Like, what like,
Yeah,
read the error message to me, if you will, right? Here's
yeah,
another one just to show you guys, because this is really powerful. Because you don't really see this. This is actually in the terminal shell. You can launch just a terminal shell of the box. But what I wanted to show you that I think is bananas is this is hold on, where was it? I just missed it.
there
This
it
is it
is.
right here. Like, you're
Yeah,
in the BIOS of
right,
the operating system. So like Windows, it doesn't even matter. You could have a completely corrupted Windows system at this point, and you're still able to service and help with that business continuity. Any
right.
thoughts about this before I dash it, Garry?
Yeah, no, this is exactly the tool that we've got, and so it's BIOS independent. It doesn't require, it can work with any vendor's BIOS. You can go in and kind of see what's going on, make some changes. So, I see, hey, it's trying to boot from a device that's no longer on the box, or what have you. You can go fix those things, and you save that round trip that we were talking about. It's just like, let me go see if I can find a FedEx store, right? Put my laptop in a bag, and then it's like, oh wait, my IT department has a policy. I can't ship it unless I wipe it first. And okay, well, let me go. Anyway, so those are the complicating things that we can avoid by being able to reach out to it remotely, and make those changes. So,
Yeah, and this kind of led into my my third kind of point I wanted to talk about, which was out of band remote access capability. So just to bring it full circle and kind of put a fine point on that, so people in chat can fully appreciate the impact, right? So being able to remote, excuse me, that's one thing. Being able to kind of field tech it is another thing. But like when a machine is in the field with like a sales professional or an executive at their house, which I know all employees should be treated equal, but let's be real. If the executive needs support like now, they want support now, right? So if they get compromised or whatever, with like ransomware, maybe a wiper virus, right? This can impact business operations. And I'm not just talking about like inconvenient because the executive can't check in for tea time. It's like maybe they can't get on a conference call or do something like that. And Intel's vPro enables that remote endpoint management even out of band, as we just demonstrated with the video. Is there anything else that you're authorized to share publicly, Garry, around this capability? Because it is a very powerful capability from a business continuity perspective, frankly.
right, right, yeah. A couple of things that I can share is one is that those two features that we talked about, being able to power up, power down, being able to, we call it KVM, right? Not the hypervisor, but the keyboard video mouse KVM. You're able to get in there and control the system. Those are just two of the features that the vPro platform supports, and there's lots of other ones. And those features include, things like we call it one-click recovery, where you can actually just send a signal that says, what, put a new image on this thing because it's so far gone. You know, uh, um, there's a variety of other technologies. We won't even go into all of it, but there's a variety of other technologies that are included in that bundle as well. One of the, we can talk about it a little bit later, but you did show kind of what we call the Endpoint Management Assistant. We internally call it Emma. This is a tool that IT shops around the world will stand up in their enterprise, and they'll bring it up, and the connectivity is kind of brokered through that platform, and the security is maintained there. We do have another way to do this, and we realize that people are kind of embracing the cloud all around, and so Intel is also and we'll do a little bit of an announcement here, but Intel is also bringing that same capability to the cloud, and be offering it as a service through some of our partners. And what that does is it kind of keeps the IT shop from having to take the time to go stand it up and to do the upgrades and to kind of manage it's like anytime you stand up a service, you got to have support for it, and let me go look at the logs and see what happened. Oh, it ran out of disk space or whatever it's right. So, we're trying to make that easier for folks by providing this as a cloud service, and we're just getting going with that in terms of doing a general availability production release. We've been working on it for a couple of years, but this is something that should make the availability of these capabilities a lot more a lot easier, and for folks, and you can move more quickly to make to get the value out of the platform.
Yeah. So are you referring to the VMware piece?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Awesome.
let me bring that up. I
Okay.
thought you might mention that, and I wanted to bring that up. So Garry, if you can, here, let me just share this on screen with everybody, and you can see here. I'll drop a link in chat for everybody, but to Garry's point, the Intel vPro is a pretty comprehensive solution, and it does integrate with some cybersecurity tools. I'm not sure the grand scope and other platforms that businesses might already be using, and certainly VMware is one of these. Can you give a little bit more into this presser right here, Garry?
Yeah. So VMware has just been a fantastic partner, and we have been working with them for a couple of years on developing out this cloud capability. Workspace ONE. A lot of times when people think VMware, they're like virtualization, right? But VMware is actually a very prominent management service provider, unified endpoint management capability through their console. And so they've really been working closely with us to help us define the features that they're looking for that will really help their customers manage their platforms. And so, as I mentioned, the power capability, power on, power off, those sorts of things, and the KVM features are, right at the top of their list. And so they're going to be offering those, and we're just, going into production with them starting in Q4. So that's, just a day or two away here. And they'll be offering those, and we really look forward to a rich partnership with them, including some additional features as time goes on. And so, but the intent here is hey, we really want to do a good job of simplifying and reducing the cost of managing through an incident of some sort, right? Whether that's a malicious or just the nature of life where things break, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like big news, I mean, two big, huge players in the space, right? Those aren't like, that's not a handshake of two small businesses. I mean, that's like you said, years in the making, a lot of engineering going on in there. Really cool. I can't wait to see where it goes. I want to take it. Chad, I asked you to drop your questions. I've seen some questions come in. I don't want you to think I was disregarding them, but it just Garry's on a roll, right? So I didn't want to slow Garry down. You know what I mean? Didn't want to stun him. But Garry, let's just take a couple of questions here from chat. This is a LinkedIn user saying, many organizations choose not to invest into many of the functions that make up a strong program. What is your take on that? This is, kind of a philosophical take by Garry.
Yeah. My favorite kind of question. So here's IT organizations have I'm going to argue the hardest jobs in the world. And the reason being is that we are caught, frankly, between do a good job for me and do it at the smallest possible expense or cost to the business, right? And so you're right. Many organizations are not going to invest in some of the functions that are necessary to, be best in class. This is really what, and we know that, I did I spent some time in IT too, and I understand the challenges, right? It's an economic squeeze that you're having to deal with in all cases. And so, it's a fight the good fight, and this is back to the original kind of hey, go do stuff, go try, right? It's like, hey, I can do more things if I have these capabilities, or I can do things faster, or I can do things cheaper if I have these capabilities. And I make the case. We know that the economy is, kind of touch and go in a variety of, still battling some inflation and a variety of other things. And so sometimes those organizations are going to say, yeah, go ahead, Sometimes they're going to say, you know, you just can't afford it right now. But you know, there still are things we can do, right? And so, but I appreciate the pain that folks are going through.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why it's, that's why it's a science. I mean, excuse me, an art and not a science, right? Because you have finite money and you have, an awful lot of risk, right? So I mean, that's why CISOs exist. That's why they get paid big bucks, because they have to make the hard decisions on where to invest and where to essentially accept the risk of, accept the risk, basically.
Right. Yep. Yep. And then our job as IT professionals, when we get in that role, then it's like, how can we reduce risk a little bit? And it's IT folks understand risk better than anyone, right? And they understand it because it's like somebody will come and say, eliminate risk for me. And it's like, it doesn't work that way, right? We minimize, we reduce, we don't eliminate, right? And we manage it. So
I've got
yeah, great question.
I've got a question for you coming in hot from Professor Black Ops. Now, this one's really going to put you on the spot, Garry. So I hope you're ready. This is like a bonus round question, like like all of a sudden the lights are flashing and going off, like woo woo, like you're the 1,000th customer through the grocery line. Okay, so yeah, definitely take a water because this one's coming in hot, Professor Black Ops. Okay, so he wants to know how Intel vPro handling may be related to NIST SR11 component authenticity. Now, I will say, I will bring up component authenticity and allow you the opportunity to kind of sniff it. And I think you're going to be okay with this one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're familiar with this control. It's around supply chain risk management. It's really around developing anti-counterfeit policies and procedures. And I think it's really around making sure that the hardware, the supply chain, the manufacturing, the platform itself has integrity, throughout the life cycle before it gets to where it's going. I know this isn't necessarily your area of expertise, but do you have some thoughts on this?
But I know a guy.
You know a guy, yes. Let's get that guy.
And I know a guy at Intel actually. So we have a program that is known as transparent supply chain, and it's right in this wheelhouse. And so let me ask you this: if I said that you could reach me at bignerd.intel.com, would that be okay? Is that okay to put out there for people?
Yeah, that's fine. If you are comfortable with being contacted by people regarding these type of things, then throw it out there.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear from. Did you say Dr. Black Ops?
Professor Black Ops.
Professor Black. It'd be awesome. Love to get a little bit more information on what you're looking for, and I will likely be able to provide a little bit more information.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, there you go, Professor Black Ops. There it is. Regular member of the community. Final question here from chat to get your thoughts on, and then we're going to roll back into the questions that I have for you. So another user from LinkedIn drops, hey, migrating workloads, legacy apps to the cloud, it's a big concern in health and science, right? Utility. Their concerns of placing their data and recovering from someone else's server, right? So it's the old adage, like, I can protect it better than anyone else can protect it. Almost kind of like a pre-1980s mindset, honestly. But how would you what's the approach to convincing people that the cloud is gentle?
I love this question for a couple of reasons. What I'm going to I love the someone else's server business too, because that's exactly what it is it's somebody else's platform. What I'm going to tell you is that this is all about the risk game that we play every day, right? Is at what point do I begin to trust the platforms in the cloud? At what point do I and by the way, there's no right answer and there's no wrong answer to this one, but there are many cases where companies will say, you know what, I'm going to move some things to the cloud, right? But I'm not going to move everything to the cloud. And I'm going to see how it goes, right? And then I'm going to leave, the jewels here on prem, and I'm going to manage those things. And it's a constant pendulum. As you'll see companies that are moving more things to the cloud, and then you'll see literally companies that are like, you know what, we're going to repatriate things back on prem. And we do that because we try to manage risk and cost and a whole bunch of other things that are going on. And so, this is what we do as IT professionals. We're the number one number one risk practitioners in the world, and we're going to go in and we're going to say, hey, these are the kinds of things we're going to consider before we move, a particular payload to the cloud. And there are cases where it's absolutely appropriate to do that, and there are cases where it's like, you know what, I'm going to make the decision. We're going to keep some things on-prem. So.
Yep, I love it. I love it. It's all about managing risk, right? That's how you convince them. You have an honest discussion. It's not about move your stuff. It's more about,
Yes.
here's what happens if you do. Here's what happens if you don't. You tell me what you
Right.
want to do,
Right.
business. Yeah, all
Right.
about those conversations.
Yeah.
So, look, like turning the lens back to the Intel vPro platform for a minute. And by the way, thanks Team Live. Great questions. Definitely appreciate the engagement. You guys are crushing it. Turning it back there from a from a cybersecurity standpoint, I know you've got these integrations coming up. I know you've got this already wonderful tech capabilities in there. The Emma we discussed from a business continuity and manageability perspective. But from a cybersecurity standpoint, Garry, like what makes Intel vPro stand out from other platforms in the market? Kind of what are those differentiators?
Right. Yeah, and I love some questions on this too. If folks, because I'm going to intentionally answer the question that you provided, and there's going to be some holes there, right?
Okay. Let's see if
vPro
chat
platform
catches it.
has
Yeah.
the best security features that you can get on a platform, and there are reasons why they exist on vPro, and I as I was, and I've of course been working with this for a number of years, and so I kind of know the list. And I was like, well, let me just go look and see. The list is huge, frankly, and it's actually more than. And so I was like, well, let me print it out. Well, okay, I'm not going to sit here and read that for you. But the reality is, there are a ton of things, and if I can share some of my favorites, and you'll find them interesting. And some people will say, I can't understand why he likes this. One of my favorites is this thing called total memory encryption.
Okay.
So my previous role at Intel was over on the Xeon side of the house, and I did a lot of work. And one of the things that we worked on is this capability, which is within the memory controller, we have a streaming encryption engine, which will take everything that you write, and there are some exceptions, everything that you write to memory and encrypt it before it gets to RAM. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, there are a number of attacks that actually, involve putting little sensors or interposers or what have you on the memory bus, and they can pull off data, and they can, you've heard the cold boot attack, right? Somebody takes a can of liquid nitrogen, they freeze the memory, they pop it out, they put it in another machine, and they read it off, and they get most of what's out there, and so why would most people care? Why do I care? Because it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But but the reality is, we have the whole spectrum. We've got at one end, one of the other ones that I really think is neat that people kind of miss as a security feature is virtualization. And the reason why virtualization is such a great security feature is because you have this ring concept within the x86 architecture, and you have ring 0, ring 1, ring 2, ring 3, and you just like try to keep the operating system in ring 0, and then you try to keep user space over in ring 3, and then from user space you're not able to go read things out of the operating system. Well, virtualization actually runs in ring -1, right? So even if you compromise, this is like, I made a mistake and I put the wrong driver onto my system or whatever. It turns out this is one of the things that the bad guys try all the time, is like to convince people to load drivers that have known vulnerabilities, right? And they can get them to load a driver that has a known vulnerability. They're like, okay, now I know how to attack that one, right? So it's like, okay, so now I'm in ring 0 and I can go do stuff. And virtualization sits over there in ring -1, and even the operating system has to go through hoops to get there. And so things like Microsoft VBS, virtualization-based security, and they're going to go. You remember Mimikatz, Jerry?
Oh man, yeah, no, yeah. I love Mimikatz. Get the ASCII art and everything on that one.
Right. And so this is like, oh, no, I'm going to take credentials and I'm going to put them over in ring -1 instead of in ring 0, and then even if you're running as administrator and you're dumping memory and all this good stuff, you're not able to. So these are two kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, but these are things that vPro is going to provide right out of the box, and there's just a big list of other things. But yeah, we put everything we can into the vPro platform and the most controls we can come up with. So.
Yeah, well, one thing you didn't mention that I think is fascinating, and maybe we can spend a minute talking about it, is the Intel hardware shield,
Ah,
because some of the capabilities of it include, and this is beyond me, Gary, but monitoring the CPU and the GPU. By the way, Gary,
right.
let's bring up the Intel hardware shield and talk about it for a minute. But I also want to tell you that in today's news, right? So I do a live threat briefing every single morning. In today's news, there's a side channel attack around GPUs, right? And we could talk about that for a hot minute too. By the way, chat, this is why it's important to stay current on top cyber news, because when you're talking to Gary over here, you got to be able to drop a GPU side channel attack so you can keep
That's
up
right.
with them.
That's
So
right.
so let
Yeah.
so let's look at this Intel hardware shield and give me the skinny on this thing.
Yeah. So there are, this is and it's actually not a terribly long paper, and you can kind of pick and choose sections from it. I love the side channel space. So one of the things that I do at Intel as I don't know if I call it a hobby, but I actually do crypto reviews for Intel for products internally. And so what'll happen is you kind of put your name, on the list, and they're like, hey, there's a new product coming through. Side channel attacks are you can spend a career just on one type of side channel attack. It's a very broad space. It goes all the way from, it's like, hey, I can do an analysis on the power that's being used. I can do an analysis on the emissions. I can do timing analysis. I can do, everything from, the ins and outs, and just observing the platform and so forth.
Hmm.
But yeah, so the hardware shield, basically, there is a piece of hardware shield that everyone should look at on this topic. It's called threat detection technology.
Okay.
And threat detection technology is one of my favorite technologies in this package. Okay, they're all my favorite, but threat detection technology is one of my favorites in here. What it does is it actually goes and pulls um, data, and CPUs these days are just highly instrumented, and so there is a tremendous amount of telemetry that comes out of the CPUs, the GPUs, the network, the memory subsystem, and so forth. And this is one of the areas that my team spends a lot of effort and a lot of time looking at this telemetry that's coming off of the platform. And guess what? You got it when you have hundreds, literally many hundreds of bits of telemetry, and you're not sitting there thinking, what can we do with this, right? And you're not interested in it, but threat detection technology is going to look at that and look at that telemetry and look for a variety of attacks that may be underway that you may not be able to find other ways. And for example, ransomware is just one. This is one of the first ones that threat detection technology was able to detect. Guess what? With ransomware, and there's been a couple of different types of ransomware. The one where they actually just overwrite all your data. They say, "Give us $300 and we'll decrypt it for you," and then you never hear from them again, right? So there's that type, right? But the other one, and they realized very quickly that that was hurting the industry. So they went back and they're like, oh no, we're going to actually go through and encrypt this. We've got one key. We can actually prove to you, and it's unfortunate that I know this. We can actually prove to you that we can decrypt. Send us any file on there. We'll decrypt it for you and send it back, and we'll prove that
Hmm.
Well, guess what? Where this happens, right? Where this encryption happens, it's on the CPU, and we can actually tell when there's an unusual amount of encryption going on the box. We can, like I said, contain that, reduce the blast radius. Threat detection tech. That's just one of many things that threat detection technology can do. But you can even look at memory patterns. Hey, it's like this is a kind of an unusual or a familiar pattern that maybe we've seen before. So it's kind of in the anomaly space. Is like, this is starting to and there's some AI algorithms that are involved in threat detection technology that are able to go and identify certain behaviors and patterns of use that will really help identify, in many cases, side channel sorts of things, but also
Hmm.
direct attacks on the platform.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, side channel attacks are fun. Like you said, they are their own niche of attacks, and I feel like it's a lot of academic papers coming out with the side channel attacks. Like Rowhammer was like a pretty
Right.
big
Right.
side channel attack. I know University of Michigan, Kevin Fu's group did some research and actually spun up a company that could look at like the energy pulsing along the power cable to
Mhm.
to basically
Yep.
tell if it was infected or not. Not the, the system, not the patient, obviously. Um,
Right. Right.
but yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is wild what's going on out there with those side channel attacks. So okay, now you had mentioned earlier about Intel vPro is a good platform as a foundation, build on top of it. And a lot of businesses might think like, oh, like, this is Fortune 500 territory. Where am I operating at? So if businesses are just starting on their cybersecurity journey, which is in 2023 horrifying, but at the same time, let's be real, it's it's a real thing. How can Intel vPro serve as a foundation for their IT infrastructure?
Right. It's for those of us, and yourself included, that have studied cybersecurity for for a long time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Most days when I get up and I start going through the material, I'm like, I feel like I'm just starting, right?
Yeah.
you know, and so even if you're just starting, it's like, hey, we're all just starting, right? There's so much to learn. And it annoys me at times when I learn the same thing twice. And it's like, man, I heard it, um, but yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Like I said, is we and here's the reason for this is with vPro platforms, we put in the CPU, obviously, and this is where Intel's well known, right? Intel's made CPUs for a long time. But guess what? We also provide the Wi-Fi and typically the graphics and a number of other subsystems on the platform. And what that allows us to do is look at not just point areas of the attack surface for vulnerabilities. Right? So, well, we're only going to look at the the Wi-Fi part, but we actually it's just a lot of cybersecurity really is made up, and vulnerabilities are made up of multiple components on the platform. I'm going to move laterally. I'm going to escalate privileges. I'm going to do these sorts of things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, what the benefit we get by supplying multiple or most of the major components to the platform is we can actually look at the big picture. Not only can we look at the big picture and say, okay, we have all these components: the GPU, the CPU, the pretty soon the NPU, the Wi-Fi, all these things that are on the platform. Not only can we do that, but we can kind of lock that down as a whole, look at it, poke at it, do research against it, and try to and try to make sure that we've again the sequence is reduce the attack surface, reduce the blast radius, look at opportunities for business continuity, features, and those sorts of things. And that's why vPro, even if you say, well, you know what, KVM is not something that I'm going to in the next 2 months be able to get my management to, support. There's a ton of other things that come on the vPro platform just by taking it out of the box, turning it on. You have a much more secure platform than you would have otherwise, and that's kind of the foundational piece, and you kind of build on that, and then down the road a little ways, you're already well prepared to go add some of these other features to it when you want to.
Yeah, another thing I would say too, Gary. So John Wooden, and for anyone that doesn't have gray in their hair, so you youngs, okay, John Wooden was a college basketball coach, UCLA, like in the late '60s, right? And he was like an inspirational leader and everything, and he's got all these great quotes. And he also like won like 9 NCAA championships in a row. It was just like bananas what he did. But he had an inspirational quote where he said, "If you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it again?" Essentially noting that, like, yeah, you can half butt it or, half it, but eventually it's going to break, it's going to fail, it's going to be whatever. Don't take shortcuts, do it right the first time. And as a business owner myself, Gary, when I think about what you're saying and about this, it's like, there's certain places you can skimp and take shortcuts and maybe get to it next quarter, whatever. But something as important as like your IT infrastructure, like get it good. Get even if you don't use all the capabilities, right? Like you mentioned, right? You're ready to grow into it. You're future proofing yourself, and you're giving yourself a baseline of quality. And again, I'm not here for that. But like my point is, like, it's an opportunity to do it right the first time instead of cutting a corner. It's like buying like a knockoff phone versus getting like, a little bit higher end one, and then you don't get compromised. You can get updates and patches and stuff like that because you invested in that particular space, because you had the foresight to understand there was value in making that investment for the long term of your business. And frankly, I will tell you, like, there's a lot of overlap between my IT infrastructure and my business. But for most businesses, they're in the business of doing something, delivering ice cream, making widgets, delivering accounting services. They're not IT people. So when they have IT problems, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. So it's
It
such an
is. Yeah.
opportunity to just
Yeah.
do it right in the key places, right? So I guess that, that's just how I feel about it. And I feel
Right.
like, the platform and good
Right.
tech is paramount to success. Any
Yeah.
thoughts about that flip out I just had? I would
Yeah. No,
I do have a spicy sounder. Like, I do play for things like that. So
yeah.
thoughts, Gary?
Yeah. No, that's it's exactly right. It's just people are and we recently did a study. A colleague of mine sponsored it. Recently did a study with a bunch of small businesses. It was fantastic because what we got out of it was exactly what you just said. Is the owner of the company is often Mr. IT guy as well, right? And he's busy trying to make money and to keep his employees employed and paid, and he has so little time to go fix problems. And people would come and say, hey, you got a problem. Hey, the screen's not showing, or and um, so they jump in. It's a perfect economic balance. This is one of the few cases where IT works perfectly, whereas the owner is the IT guy, right? At some point, he's going to say, "Okay, I put enough time into this. I'm going to go, let me get you a new one, right?" Or no, go to Geeks or whatever it happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go take care of that. Um, yeah, that's so this is the study that we did. The results are basically feeding our product development and our feature development that we have going. We did not put a kind of a report out on it, but I got lots of, and this is what I like for those of us from the upper Midwest. We like our stories, right? So I've got stories out of this, and but we had a lot of great conversations with a lot of people that it's just like they tell us what their pain is, and we're like, oh yeah, didn't even, thanks, that's super helpful. Let's go figure out how we can make that better.
Yeah. So what I just heard Gary say is find him at Black Hat in the bar and buy him a drink, and you will get stories. That's what I just heard. So Gary, I'm going to be targeting you next summer
Yeah,
at the conference.
there you go. There you go.
So let's turn our focus forward and look into the future a little bit. So looking ahead, right? How do you see the evolution, or give us some juice, man? Spill the tea on like the direction of Intel vPro and how it's
Right,
addressing what is really a dynamic cybersecurity landscape.
right. Well, this is the axiom, right? That and your viewers are probably heard this a million times, which is the bad guys are using all the tools. The
Yeah.
good guys got to use the tools too, right? And so what you're going to see, okay, so what you're seeing now, and this is really pivotal in industry, is like the attackers, the hackers are using AI. They're using the tools, right?
Yeah.
It's like I used to be able to look at these scam emails and say, well, your grammar's not real good, right? And so I think I'm just going to delete that one, right? Oh, guess what? There's a tool out there. I won't say which one it is, but there's a tool out there that they're using to fix their grammar so that their emails don't have that problem. So they're using these tools. I also, okay, we'll save that. We'll save that other story for next time when we chat. But
Okay. Okay. All
uh,
right.
but
Noted.
here,
Like writing
so
these down. Like another story for Gary. There we go.
here's what yeah. So bad guys are using these tools, right? AI. They're using it for social engineering. They're using it for automation of attacks. They're using it for fingerprinting. Of course, it's gone on for some, fingerprinting platforms looking for vulnerabilities. All these things. So yes, Grammarly. And so yeah. So hey, guess what? let's use the most advanced tools that we can as well in the future, to make sure that we're providing the best platform for people so that they have, a fighting chance, against the folks who are using the same tools, right? So
Hmm.
that's really what it's about. And I have been, of course, we're going to keep a lot of this, for product announcements and those sorts of things, but it's like the accessibility of tools to help you, classify issues that are on the platform to fix those issues. So we went through the scenario, right? It's just, hey, you need to go on into BIOS and fix things. And we provide these great tools for you to power up the box, to remote KVM in there. And we're like, yay, we did a great job. It's like, well, how can we make that easier? Well, one way that it would be easier is if somebody didn't actually have to do it. Right? Right? What if there's a tool? I'm doing a what if here. What if there was a tool that actually could do it for me? Um, and so, the future, we're really at a pivotal point in the industry right now. It's just, with we've accumulated enough data, we have enough processing power, and we have the algorithms to make things, that we've never been able to make before. Right?
Mhm.
Let's use them for good. Let's use them to protect ourselves, and the future is pretty exciting in that regard.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely, dude. And I agree 100% around, technology is just a tool, right? Like tools can be used for nefarious purposes, for righteous purposes, but it's it's ignorant to say, "Oh, I'm not going to use that tool because the bad guys use that tool." No, like you gotta have a level playing field, right?
Yep. Yep.
I love it. All right, let me look here. Let me see if there's any more questions. That was really the round out of the questions I want. We've got a couple minutes still left in chat. So chat, here, McKinsey Emmanuel's got one. I'm not sure if this necessarily applies to Intel vPro, but let's see if we can like massage it, shape it, treat it like Play-Doh, Gary, and kind of shape it. What
Okay.
measures can be taken to adapt or change the audit program based on findings and evidence uncovered during an audit? So I think
Mhm.
this might be, I mean, you can answer this certainly with some thoughts, but this may be more GRC focused, and less Intel. But, what are your thoughts here?
No, so this was probably, it was like 12, 13 years ago. I had a manager who's like, hey, Gary, you should go you should go become a certified auditor. And I did a spit take because I was like, well, auditors have gray hair in their beards and they wear glasses. And well, guess what? So, what's funny though is I actually, and I was like, I'm not interested in that at all until I went and studied it, and I was like, "This is cool."
Mhm.
This is a really robust discipline around doing auditing, and so I spent some time doing, in the GRC space and doing audits, and actually, audits to a large degree have kind of shaped the way I think about the world, right? And it's like somebody says something, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Oh, could you actually show me some evidence that that backs up what you're saying, right? And
Yeah.
that's what, as auditors, that's what we go do, right? So, um, what we're looking here is morphing our audit program, and I think this is exactly in the same space, right? That we're talking about what are the advanced tools that we have at our disposal? We can do so much better than, okay, well, I'm going to statistically grab 10% of these records. I'm going to examine those. You know what? Anomaly detection. Let's use that, right? So let's change our audit program to look for anomalies. Now we have obligations, for due process, and I still have to sign all my legal documents with black ink, and all these sorts of things.
Mhm.
Don't discard the requirements there, but at the same time, use some of the new tools that we have to make, the audit. You want to find stuff, you want to fix stuff. For the most part, the things that you're going to uncover in an audit are not nefarious, right? They're mistakes. Let's go fix them. But if they are nefarious, hey, I'm going to use new tools to try to uncover those as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I knew I liked you, Gary, right? Like we've been having great conversations leading up to this chat, and I knew I liked you, but you're into GRC, and I think that's it. So I don't know if you know this, Gary, but like I came up GRC, and I am like trying to make GRC socially acceptable in cybersecurity. Like pen testers, SOC analysts, they all got their cool stuff going on, and their eye candy, wall of displays and stuff like that, and hacker hoodies. In the GRC, we got a clipboard. Okay, so like, listen. we're making it cool. That's
There's
what we're
nothing
doing. We
wrong with
got
the
cool
clipboard, folks.
clipboards. We have trapper keepers, Gary. We have the clear blue clipboards. We're not just like our dad's boring beige
That's right.
one, right?
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, and actually, GRC can be a huge asset to the company, obviously.
For sure, for sure.
And this is where, from a risk management perspective, this is what we do. We manage risk. We don't eliminate risk. We don't ignore risk. We manage it, and that's how you do it. So.
Yeah, 100%. We got time for one more question here coming in from CJ. Yep, yeah, absolutely. Let me just get this one quick question from CJ, and then we're gonna share something with you guys that you can take away with you. That's absolutely dope. You mentioned working with small businesses. What did you find the best way to help make them aware of the threat landscape?
Well, obviously, you got to watch Jerry's show.
Thank you. I got a sounder for that. There we go. There we go.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
And I'm not joking either. I mean,
Thank you.
This is exactly the way you do it. Is on the way into work, listen. On take a break at lunch, watch the show. And it's cybersecurity is a cultural thing. It has to be. It's not something like, okay, well, next week we're going to take care of our cybersecurity obligations for the year. It doesn't work that way, right? And so embrace it, love it, make it work.
Heck yeah. And thanks a lot, CJ. CJ gave me a ride in Vegas this summer. He picked me up at the airport. It was awesome. I love CJ. Thanks, CJ, for the question. So Gary, check it out. Guys, I just pinned a comment in chat for you guys to check out. It's wicked awesome. Let me see where my notes are here really quickly. So basically, I want to show you this. This is where you can go find out more about the Intel vPro platform. The link I just dropped in chat, you can absolutely click on. If you are only on LinkedIn, you will have to come to YouTube because I can't make it like that. But check out the Intel vPro platform. All of the information that Gary covered today is in here, plus a ton of other information. If you need it, like basically you can package this Intel up to get budget, to get new tech refresh basically, and also to set yourself up. Hopefully you guys saw all of the amazing like remote access capabilities today, the ability to boot into the BIOS, the ability to not have Carl, okay? Not to have Carl, but by the way, Carl's our general avatar for end users, Gary. Not to have Carl try to explain what the reboot sequence looks like on the screen. You can just push Carl to the side and do your job and help with business continuity, help with maintainability. And guys, by the way, cybersecurity professionals, we need IT people to do their job in order for us to achieve some of our objectives. We can't go and do the manageability piece of the IT infrastructure. That's IT's job. So this is a great opportunity. Roll this up, stick it on, maybe buy some Krispy Kreme donuts and stick it underneath all of them. So as the IT's eating the donuts, they begin to uncover the Intel vPro platform circular, right? There's different techniques, Gary. We are social engineers. We do have that capability in our repertoire, right? Yes, I'm getting a strong nod from Gary. I absolutely love it.
We know too much. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. We do know what's up. So guys, check it out. We've enjoyed having Garry Binder, Chief Commercial Architect at Intel, on with us today. He's going to be coming back. We've already in kind, hand shook, high-fived. We haven't put it in pen yet, but Gary's, all right, there it is.
We're doing it.
Gary's going to come back and talk about some of his other areas of interest. Like I said, he's a bit of a Renaissance man and he knows quite a bit. But I'll tease that tomorrow morning during jaw jacking session if you catch me on that. As we send him off to the green room on behalf of all of chat over here, Gary, all of chat over here, and myself, because I really thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for taking time to visit and share all of your knowledge with us today. And thank you for Intel for bringing you here and presenting this episode of this live stream.
Yeah, been a pleasure, Jerry. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gary. All right, guys. I hope you found today's discussion insightful. Don't forget to check out Intel's vPro platform. The link is right here. and I pinned it in the YouTube chat over there, so you can absolutely get to it. At least go look at it, take a sniff, right? Scroll a little bit. It's very powerful platform. I dropped the link in chat. That's already set up. You will find all the information that we discussed today and much, much more. Obviously, this video will be available on replay for those who are hashtag team replay, or if you're team live and you had to step away, team hybrid, whatever it is, we got you covered. I'm not going to pull this video down, so you're going to be all set, right? Again, huge thank you to Intel. Here we go. Huge thank you to Intel for sponsoring the stream, Garry Binder for joining us today, taking time out of his day to be with us, and to all of you in chat for your great engagement and questions. It was absolutely epic. I loved it. If you're catching this on replay, drop a comment. Don't be shy. Don't be passive observer. Drop a comment. Just let us know what you thought, right? Jerry, great hair. Garry, good comments about, well, you didn't talk about that on stream, but like whatever it is that you got value out of, like drop a link. I love engaging with the comments and team replay, so definitely giddy up on that. If you do drop a comment that's a question for Garry, I will try to get it to him and we can follow up with him, and I'll let you guys know during the morning shows. If not, Garry's going to be coming back on, so we absolutely can get him. We can like corner him and ask him about that when he comes back on. Don't forget that tomorrow morning, if I can put this on screen, I think it looks better like this, doesn't it? Yeah, don't forget that tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., just like every single weekday morning at 8 a.m., I'll be live hosting the daily cyber threat brief. Tomorrow, though, Eric Taylor will be hosting. I just realized because I'll be on travel. So just believe me, tomorrow, 8 a.m., you're going to get massive value. Again, thanks, Intel. Thanks, Garry. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and stay secure. Take care. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed that content. Keep the cybersecurity train going by connecting with the other Simply Cyber community resources. We have the Discord server that's lively and always keeps the conversation going. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. And also every single weekday morning on the Simply Cyber channel, we're doing live daily cyber threat briefings, 8 a.m. Eastern time, as well as Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We're doing live stream interviews with industry experts, and we produce videos that we push out every Wednesday morning. I'm Jerry from Simply Cyber. I hope